I always found branding fascinating because it is the thing that a business uses. It's like the membrane between the business and the marketplace. There is a level where you can copy, but don't. So they were just a cigarette brand until they applied a cowboy to it. And then they went from a cigarette brand to a masculine cigarette brand. You'd be like, so what? Once we get the product right and we have the messaging right and we have everything right, then we go to banks. At the time, used to have a pen and a chain attached to it, and it was all about, well, we don't trust you. The pillars of success are the people around you.
Let's unveil the magic behind a startup's content strategy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another captivating episode of Zeeshan's podcast, where we discuss all things branding and more. Today, we are honored to be joined by Simon Morris, a visionary in the world of branding and with over a decade of experience in the field of branding and a flair for infusing Japanese design principles. Simon has been running an Australian powerhouse which redefines branding, and the agency's name is Musubi Brand Agency. Together, we'll decode how a startup can pin down their content strategy. Simon, a very warm welcome to you. Could you give us a glimpse of how you got the taste of branding and why Japanese design?
I always found branding fascinating because it is the thing that a business uses. It's like the membrane between the business and the marketplace. And I always found that astoundingly fascinating from a very early age, on whether it was billboards at when I'd watch cricket. My background is part Indian, so I'd be watching cricket, and all the billboards would have some kind of branding on it. And I'll be mainly focused on that than I would be on the actual game. And Japanese design, that's where a lot of the answers are found. So most Western design and branding is siloed, it's isolated. So you'll have the marketing department that doesn't talk to HR, and HR doesn't talk to customer service, in case that customer service doesn't talk to property. And so, but with Japanese design, every little detail goes hand in hand to the next little detail. And it's important because that means the entire ecosystem will end up being in harmony. As where with Western design, you could have a marketing put out a message to say, we're the best organization ever, and then an employee starts, but HR has failed to resolve any kind of toxic environment, and employees go, it isn't the best place ever. And the customer service isn't offering the kind of service or promotion or promise that the brand is trying to make. And retail environments or the office design is boring and dry and has no real kind of personality to it. So as with Japanese design, it is everything comes together. So the promise is fulfilled, the marketing promise is fulfilled through the brand experience, and it's reinforced through culture and messaging. And so it's a lot. That's where a lot of the answers are for organizations, whether it's a startup or a big organization, to really succeed.
Well, I'm really excited to hear what you're going to share with us more today, Simon. And so let's get right into it. Our exploration starts with how to begin. Simon, what foundational steps can startups take to establish their content strategy?
Yes, content is the outcome. The key things that are needed before we even get there is, what is the business strategy? What's the financial objectives and strategy? What do you stand for as an organization? What's your central organizing idea or brand essence? What's at the heart of that brand? And then where do you sit within the category? So it doesn't matter who you are. You need to have those three things as the foundations to help then shape your comps. So the business objectives and strategy has to be a longer term thing, because how are you going to take customers on a particular journey? How are you going to have them be part of your business, domestically or internationally? How are you going to grow and scale up your business? And then who are you, and how should you be expressed? And then where do you want to sit within that category? Those three things then help shape the comms. There's an example I use quite a bit, which is Marlboro cigarettes. So they were just a cigarette brand until they applied a cowboy to it, and then they went from a cigarette brand to a masculine cigarette brand.
Yeah.
And that meant that the marketplace wanted to, especially the key target market, which is understood within their business strategy and the financial goals, that the customers were going, well, I want to be a masculine smoker. And so that meant that in that category, that brand can start to adjust their pricing accordingly, because they can start to dominate that category, and other brands will have to play with around pricing strategy, as opposed to an idea strategy, which comes down to who are you. So those three things are critical in shaping the communication.
It was really interesting and smart, to be honest. The analogy you used actually changed the whole perspective behind the conversation. To make it even more simpler for our audience, let's imagine that a startup brand is on a content roadmap and they want to establish themselves in the digital landscape now. Could you shed light on the guiding factors for them in this area other than the ones you've already shared?
So they're a startup that is, it depends on what sector they're in. So one of the things that we focus on at times is storytelling that is used in movies. So we'll take, say, Joseph Campbell's Heroes with 1,000 Faces as a foundation to storytelling across the digital landscape, and that then tells us, it helps us organize all of the content and information that we need to communicate, and then how do we take the customer on a journey with the brand, and we treat the brand as a character in the story. And so then that way, when you want to make heighten a sense of curiosity or interest, then we know how to shape that story, and what questions do we leave, and so that way the customer can how do they look for more and find more, and where do they go? Then it makes us think about how that content strategy helps us guide people to the next point. So it's from social media to the website to then being a part of the organization in some way as a customer, or if it moves to a retail or hotel environment or whatever. So you want to make sure that each and every single step is non-standard to everybody else, by being able to unlock a story that sits within the brand, which goes back to don't say something unless you have something actually meaningful to say. So that the business strategy, the financial strategy, the brand purpose, and your category starts to help shape at what point you start to communicate how it needs to be communicated. At what point do you create a bit of interest, or where do you start to go deeper now to unpack the character story?
Let me put you on the spot here for a bit. Let's just imagine that you are about to start Musubi in 2023, and you want to understand how to create, or rather you are going about creating the fusion between curiosity and discoverability, and putting those touch points in the journey. How would you go about it?
One of the first things that I would be doing is building out what is it that Musubi stands for, and what is it that makes us, what is our our own service. We're in service to something. Every story has a character that is in service of something.
Right.
So it could be a hero, and that hero is in service of helping and saving somebody, or his. So we are in service. So what does that mean? It's not just a functional thing. It's not that we design stuff and we can work some things out. What gap are we filling in that resolves a whole range of issues, and who are we talking to? So we will talk to sophisticated marketers and CEOs and decision makers that have grown weary of other brand agencies and want a partner to work with that's going to be with them for the journey. And that's what we have. We've built our business around that. Our business model is around that. So even if we are even if we were starting today, it would still be exactly the same, that we would build our how we charge clients around what kind of story that we're going to be telling. And then when customers come in on board, because we end up having a longer term relationship with them, they become part of our storytelling. So the level of curiosity could be around the Japanese design, or it could be around the fact that we only deal with nice people, or it could be around that we have a greater level of intelligence to our brand and design solutions.
Even without experience, as Simon just told us. And I have so many more questions to ask you, Simon, and I'm sure our audience do too. So, your questions in the comment section, and we'll try to get all the answers from Simon for you. Simon, moving our conversation forward, we stop at distribution strategy. How do startups, can amplify their content reach through a strategic distribution? What all things they need to keep in mind?
Yeah, I kind of hinted at it. I've got a little dog here. I've kind of hinted at it in the with our customers, that when we get them on board and they start to learn a lot more about us, that they end up becoming advocates. And the same applies with startups, is that the customers that you bring on board become a very rich and powerful engine for building your distribution and content. You can test ideas with them. You can get them involved in certain initiatives. You can, if there's something that is new to the market, customers that came on board very early on, you include them in it, and you're repaying them for being customers in the early days. And you invite them to a launch and VIP launch, and they're there, so they feel like that. They not just feeling, it's not a trick. You're treating them as part of the business, and that's what they are. Right. The customers are your financial income stream, so don't neglect them, don't ignore them. Have them as part of the growth and journey of the business, which means you can be as transparent with them as possible. And once they are a part of it and they understand more about what it is that you do and why you do it, and that they feel involved, and they end up sharing it, and they're actively distributing the message. But in order to get that messaging right, they have to be a part of those early conversations, and they will have questions about, well, why are you doing this and why are you doing that, and this is fantastic, I'm great, we're a part of this launch. But your business and financial objectives, your brand purpose, and the where you want to sit within that category then gets communicated to those customers, because they're out there talking about it, that I'm a part of this business that stands for this in the market because of this reason. And so the distribution of the content becomes extremely powerful when you have your customers as advocates.
I mean, we had a discussion off camera about this topic, and I'm going to put this in this conversation now. It's related to the brand experience, which you explained very beautifully to me with an analogy. You were talking about packaging something for the customers so that they become the part of the journey, and then they actually eliminate the competition in their mind. So I hope you're getting the thing which I'm talking about. Could you please explain and elaborate on that once again?
Yeah, so there's a coffee brand here in Australia called Brew, and they will, um, them, they're very clear about their business objective and their purpose and where they sit within the category. They know that they're not Nescafe and some big behemoth of an organization, but they stand for something, and they the messaging that they put out will elicit a little bit of curiosity about flavor and about the product and about it being biodegradable. And so when you purchase it, most people will never purchase everything all at once. It's just a little piece. But when you receive it, that's where the journey really begins. And there's a handwritten note from the CEO and the founder, and there's another little gift in it that they know will complement the coffee that profile that you've purchased. And then there'll be another piece of information about what you can do with the coffee pods. So that's taking it to the next step. It's not just, I've got it, now I'm going to use it, and then that's it. It's unpacking more about what it is about their brand purpose and their brand idea. And then when you purchase more, the next pack that you get, there's another part of the story. And then when that customer then finds themselves mentally locked in to that brand, and that means that they have locked off and blocked out any competitors.
Yeah.
If another competitor comes on board, now that customer has a criteria. Yes, but can you do this, and this, like Urban Brew can do? There was another. There's a client that we've worked with called People's, that we created almost from scratch, People's Choice Credit Union. And so there'll be things like umbrellas and bottles of water, because banks at the time used to have a pen and a chain attached to it, and it was all about, well, we don't trust you as the customer. So we said, you can take the stuff. You can take the pen if you like. You can take a bottle of water, and if it's raining outside, there's an umbrella that you can take, and you can return it if you like. But we don't with the bottle of water. But if you want to return the umbrella, you can. But it's there for you to take, because that's not what we're about. We're not about building a relationship on mistrust. We're about building a relationship on your life journey. And that business then has, that bank then takes. Captures information at certain points, doesn't bombard you with questions. There's a whole range of questions that they want to ask you, but they capture it at certain points that allows them to get a bigger picture and have a single view of the customer. So if I go and get a loan, and then my wife comes in and gets a loan, then they'll go, oh, if they're married, do they have kids? So then there's some questions around kids. Oh yes, they do have kids. What age are they? And then they track that age and go, okay, well, kids are going to start entering the workforce here in Australia at around 15, 16. So then information comes to the parents to say that this is how kids can start to save money, and this is what they can do. And they may be wanting to save up for their first car, and yada yada yada. These are some tricks and habits that they can start to employ, so they're saving money and they still have spending money. So how do you start to teach them financial literacy? And so now they're moving away from give us your money and we'll put it in the bank and then that's it, to enabling you, and then that child ends up becoming a customer, and we become loyal customers. And it's hard for us then to move over to a different bank, because they're thinking about the next stage of life. So there's a customer value journey map that we have. Objectives and purposes and where you sit in the category help then map out what kind of customer journey that you want with your client, and how should you ensure that there's no churn with the customers. No point having customers come in and then leave. The stronger your customer base is, the stronger your ability to scale and move into other markets, and the higher the brand equity is.
Moving the chain from the back of the pen can build that trust with the name, with the brand, and that gives you customers for a lifetime, right?
Mm.
And you end up becoming their trustworthy partner, the customer's trustworthy partner, just by doing that small bit. So as you explained, it's about understanding where you stand and who you are, and then doing your bit rather than looking at other people and doing what they are doing. Our conversation, can you share a few tips, just liners maybe, to share with the startups who are looking to, pin down their content strategy?
There is a level where you can copy, but don't be swayed by your competitors. So um, your competitors will have weaknesses in their shield. So the stronger you are on making sure that your messaging is right and you have information drawn out of insights from your data and your customer, the smarter you are and the more sophisticated you are, the greater chance you have of scalability. And so you need to have the right kinds of people around you to assist in that, but don't be swayed by your competitors. I met with Mrs Prada in Sydney, and that's where I really learnt that lesson, because she was talking about how her luxury competitors, they may be the first to market with something, and she'd be like, so what? Once we get the product right and we have the messaging right and we have everything right, then we go to market. Is that we're not going to be driven by our competitors. We're not making decisions based on what they're doing first. We'll do what we do, they will do what they do, and we will do it in a way that is going to be the best, what we think is the best, and then the customers will decide. And so don't get swayed, and then don't say something if you don't have anything to say. So don't feel like, I haven't said something on social media in ages, I've got to say something. So don't fall into that trap. Don't be swayed by what you think could be some kind of void, because the marketplace isn't keeping track of what you said and when you said it and how you said it and all that kind of stuff. Just when you have something to say, then say it, and make sure that when you are saying it, it has some meaning within the world. It's pushing a value. It's not a PR media release or press release. You're saying something that comes from the business to say that this is what we are doing for these reasons. Not that we've launched this new product and it's going to be available on shelves by whatever it is. It's boring. Say something that is going to mean something and add value. And it becomes easier to talk about then. It's easy to unpack when you're coming from a place of value, and it allows you to start to generate greater curiosity when you're coming from that position of wanting to communicate value.
And one last thing which I would add from your behalf, which we talked off camera, was be kind and nice to people. When they're in the beginning of their journey as a startup, you really need to understand what kind of help they might require. So that way you're building a relationship which is going to go on for a longer period of time, rather than looking at short-term, quick fixes or goals.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly. Yes, and be kind, because it's the pillars of success are the people around you. So we will best, especially people like us in a time-based business. We invest time, and we are constantly thinking about our client, and so we tend to go out of our way when we're working with kind people. So and don't use be kind just because you think that's a tactic. It's just genuinely be kind, and it's one of those things that it's all about planting seeds. Little seeds of kindness tend to grow with you.
Simon, thank you so much for all the insights that you have shared with us today. You have given us all a unique way to look at content design and how to utilize best the combination of two. We hope to host you again with some another intriguing topic. So thank you so much. That wraps up another enlightening episode of Zeeshan, discuss all things branding and more. If you found this discussion as eye-opening as I did, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for more captivating weekly conversations around branding and more. And as we say goodbye, let me leave you with one mantra. Your startup's content strategy is more than just words, it's the heartbeat of your brand's narrative. Know it too well. See you next week, everyone. Have